Hello there.
General Kenobi.
I'm Greg Sanders, the Sexy Jedi. So, we're talking about live service, and we're continuing the conversation from our microtransaction topic because they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, really, they're holding hands. It's a marriage. If there's a live service game, it has microtransactions, pretty much. And there's always some kind of balance of keeping that game alive, right? So, if it's Halo Infinite, you're paying for all kinds of customization, you're paying for boosts and things like that, whereas you're continuing to get maps and updates like that for free. And so you never split the player base because you don't buy map packs anymore. I think an argument can be made about whether or not that had a negative impact on previous Halo titles, especially when looking at player statistics and player numbers. Halo Infinite's had massive drop-offs in players versus when map packs were released for Halo 3, Halo Reach, so on and so forth. So I mean, there is clearly something there. There is a point of perspective that you can have, and obviously you fall on whatever side you want to fall on, but there is something that can be said when you look at the player drop-off numbers of a live service Halo game where everyone has access to every map and everything's supposed to be there, and you have the cosmetics and that kind of personalization cut off versus, again, previous Halo games like Halo 3 and Halo Reach, which were not live service. They had map pack DLCs. Those DLCs released with enough regularity. Honestly, I never got bored, and I put hundreds of hours into those games over the years. And they had and have thriving communities that have not abandoned those games. There is a commitment to those games, and I think there's something to be said about that. And I do think there's something to be said about that. There can be a negative impact on going live service, on not being able to adequately handle the pressure, the pipeline of a live service game, and to keep it manageable. Live service is sort of an MMO light, if you'll allow me the comparison, and that is to say, in a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, you have the launch game, and that game launches, and again, like World of Warcraft, it launches, it comes out, and then over a period of a year or what have you, raids and PvP maps are released, and with those raids and stuff come new armor, and there's new seasons, and it escalates. And the raids are, of course, narratively driven. There's cinematics, there's voice acting, and all of this. It culminates. There's a big finish, and there's patches throughout to add little things, add rewards, and all kinds of stuff like that. And you pay a monthly fee to pay an MMO to keep it going. To me, that's always been fair and reasonable. The servers, the running, everything that's going on in that, all the amount of content it offers, to me, I've always considered that very fair. Now, within that MMO structure, you finish it, you wrap it up, there's a waiting period for the next expansion. You either stay subbed or you unsub, and then you come back when the next expansion is launching. The cycle repeats itself. There's higher levels, higher gear, new story, new narrative, entire new zones, and you go. And the cycle just goes and goes. And it just continues as long as the MMO continues to be successful, generate revenue, and make money. Now, a live service game, which the most prominent one is Destiny, right? I mean, let's be honest, Destiny really started us on this train. It comes out and gets started. You pay your $60. Now, when Destiny first started, there was DLC packs that you paid for and all this stuff, and now Destiny's free to play. So now Destiny 2, of course, is free to play, and so now you're paying for, you'll pay for seasons or what have you. So the structure has changed, but when Destiny first launched, it was a live service game. DLC came out, you paid for that DLC. You paid for that DLC, you got access to gear, you got access to missions, raids, but it was a very small amount. And it was a too small amount based on at least general player feedback. They didn't feel like they were getting enough. They didn't feel like they were getting value for what they were spending, and there was a drop-off. And it's been an ebb and flow. It's been an ebb and flow and kind of a fight for Bungie to kind of find that perfect ground in terms of Destiny, and I think it's still debatable. At least in getting prepared for this, talking to a lot of Destiny 2 players, there seems to still be a lot of debate on whether or not Destiny is pulling it off. Now, Destiny 2 is free to play. And again, you can purchase additives, and there is, of course, a marketplace, if you want to call it that. There are microtransactions in Destiny 2. So they've already changed as well. And then within that, there are just overall free-to-play games. Fortnite, Apex Legends, and I could go on and on. I mean, the list is massive for free-to-play games, especially when you get into the, mobile marketplace, and then, of course, games like Genshin Impact. It just goes and it goes and it goes and it goes. Free-to-play games, a lot of microtransactions, live service, continuously updated. Here's new characters to play, so on and so forth. New heroes to play, things like that. It just goes, right? Sometimes they're successful. Fortnite is successful. Apex Legends is successful. Genshin Impact is successful, right? Pokemon Go is successful. There are games that have a hard time, that just don't ultimately find success. EA's Battlefront games did not find success. Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers game, it did not find success, right? So there is a balance. And we talked about this in our microtransactions videos, but you can look at Marvel's Avengers. Marvel's Avengers promises that every hero will be free. So levels, zones, additional heroes, boss fights, all of that, rating, all this content will all be free. You can pay for cosmetics. You can purchase cosmetics. You can purchase poses. You can purchase finishers. You can purchase nameplates. All that jazz. That's what you purchase. They did do XP boosters and things like that for a little bit after they nerfed the XP gain, which was really sleazy, and then they sort of reversed that, and now the fan base is still divided. And again, in preparation for this video, it is fascinating. Like, there is an overwhelming negative response to Marvel's Avengers and Halo Infinite. Overwhelmingly. And again, it is subjective. It's for you to walk away and go, yeah, I mean, it's they rightfully earned it, or, oh, wow, that's heavy. Now, again, we're only talking about criticizing the game, the product. Halo Infinite is free to play in terms of its multiplayer. You do not have to purchase the multiplayer. If you want to play the Halo Infinite campaign, the single player campaign, Master Chief, Cortana, all that, you spend $60. An argument can be made if that's a fair price. A debate can be had, absolutely. And I'm with you. I think there's a fair debate there. But there is something that is said that Halo Infinite is a lesser product than Halo Reach. There is something that is said that Marvel's Avengers is a lesser product than Ultimate Alliance, the Black Order on Switch, or the previous multi-platform Ultimate Alliance releases, or X-Men Legends. And I can go on and on in terms of Marvel. There is an argument that says EA's Battlefront games are lesser than the previous Battlefront games that came out from LucasArts. There are fair arguments about those. There are fair arguments that say the release structure and the amount of content that we're getting from Halo Infinite and Marvel's Avengers is not suitable for live service. The content isn't there. There are significant major droughts. There's not easy communication. There is simply nothing to do. At least that's overall, if you'll allow me to sum up all the messages that I got in terms of reaching out, there's nothing to do. That's really what sums up all of this. There's nothing to do. Now, Halo Infinite has said all kinds of things in terms of their structure. Oh, you can't even color your armor for free now. You have to earn armor cores. And that's it, which is, in my opinion, abhorrent. Like, that is, I mean, it was a basic feature completely stripped from you. I get it if you want to lock armor. I get it if you want to lock customization, like, oh, hey, here's your AI, here's your pose, whatever. But the ability to color your armor, like, you could lock patterns maybe. Oh, hey, tiger stripe pattern, that's going to be locked. Camo pattern, that's going to be locked. Wavy pattern, that's going to be locked. But like just a basic armor coloring, to not be able to do that, to not have the suite of colors that we had in Reach, I can't. I can't agree with that. That's nothing good comes of decisions like that. Nothing good comes of that in terms of comparison. In terms of being critical of a game, in terms of looking reasonably at the product we're getting, no, there is absolutely nothing. absolutely nothing, in my opinion, that supports that. And again, I don't care for Halo Infinite. I don't feel like it's my experience. I feel the choices that have been made have all been made to market and cater to an audience that is willing to spend money and that has the ability to spend money. And I am not of those parties, right? So I'm coming from a different perspective. I also just don't think that there is a rollout of ample content. From map selection to game types, comparing to what these previous games launched with, there is no debate on the superior product. And it's I mean, for me, there is no argument. I still play the Master Chief Collection on PC. Halo Infinite, though, no. And again, even statistically, the player response has been the same. Halo Infinite has seen significant drop in players, whereas Master Chief Collection is only growing. Master Chief Collection, you have to pay. I mean, now you don't have to pay to play continuously, but you have to pay for that product initially, which can vary in price depending on if you get it on a big sale or whatever. But you have to pay, for the Master Chief Collection. You have to pay for that product, not a subscription or anything like that, but you have to pay $20, $30, $40 depending on sales and whatever the price is as of when this video goes up. You know what I'm saying? And it still has more players. Now, I'm sure that will vary. I'm sure when seasons launch or whatever, we'll see what happens in terms of player retention, which will be interesting. Player retention is interesting, and that's a whole nother case of this, because if there's no player retention, you don't got anybody to play with, holy hell, what's the point? Because it's a live service game. MMOs don't have that problem. I do not have a problem finding people to play with in an MMO, which requires a monthly subscription, for God's sake. I do not have a problem finding a match in Master Chief Collection. It takes all of, at my last count, the last time I did a timer on it, it took about 3 seconds and I had a full match. And I prefer big team battle, just to put that into perspective. So it took seconds. Halo Infinite takes minutes. It is free to play. Marvel's Avengers. Last time it took 40 minutes, which is pretty much, I have given up in finding players for that. It took 40 minutes. Marvel's Avengers, you have to pay to play, in the respect that you have to buy the product. Marvel's Avengers is not free to play. So you have to purchase Marvel's Avengers. I think the standard price now in America is $20. And if you're lucky, it goes on sale so much you can find it for $10. So again, arguments can be made there about it being dirt cheap, but you do have to pay to be able to play it. But the problem is there's nobody else to play with. Problem is that the amount of time it takes to find people is incredibly, incredibly difficult. Should Avengers go free to play? I mean, there's no easy answer for that. There's no easy answer for that because if the market's not there anyway, it can't support going free to play. And Halo Infinite is already free to play and has fewer players than the Master Chief Collection. Apex Legends is successful. Overwatch isn't free to play, but it's so close to being in that market that like Overwatch could go free to play and I think would be completely fine. But there's still microtransactions, there's still gacha mechanics and all of that within Overwatch. Like I said, World of Warcraft is thriving. Games like League of Legends are thriving. Genshin Impact is thriving. They've made $1 billion. Pokemon Go is thriving. They made $6 billion. Holy crap. They made $6 billion. It is a free-to-play game, and they made $6 billion. That's incredible. That's unbelievable. I mean, that amount of money, like, I don't even need $6 billion. I mean, like, I don't even need $1 billion. I could take $5 million and be good for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Mac? Like, that's it. Put that in the bank, invest. I'm good. I don't need $6 billion. But the point stands. Like, there are people who dream about having money. And one product making $6 billion is, if you'll allow me to steal a metal term from Halo, unfreaking believable. So, live service. Here's another comparison for you. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Cyberpunk 2077, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Single player games. Single player, games with a unbelievable amount of content. Hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, to be honest. I have 600 hours in Skyrim. I have 300 hours in Breath of the Wild, and I have about 200 hours in Wild Hunt. And I'm not sure about Cyberpunk. It would only be guessing, but I think I have like 100 hours in Cyberpunk. Maybe like 95 hours, something like that. Each of those games were 60. And Breath of the Wild had a $20 DLC. I was so enamored. I purchased the DLC, $20 DLC. I was happy with that. I loved the content that it added. I thought it added a wealth of content far exceeding the $20 price tag. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, 2 DLCs, in addition to a number of free DLCs that CD Projekt Red offered. Amazing, amazing amount of content. Again, I thought it incredible value that was more than worth it, right? Cyberpunk 2077 hasn't launched with any, they don't have any paid DLC, but I still find the game has great value. And I use that as an example. I wanted to point out Cyberpunk as well because there was debate about Cyberpunk being a broken mess. On previous generations, yes, it sounds like it is. And if you're playing on PS4 or Xbox One, I'm sorry, that really legitimately sucks. Cyberpunk should never have come out on previous generations, just like Marvel's Avengers should never have come out on previous generations. But they did. They did to maximize profits. They did because player bases for next-gen consoles weren't large enough to support the budgets. I get it. It's business. I don't agree with it because they just weren't made for last gen. And because they had to walk this line, they couldn't take full advantage of next gen. So it put us in an awkward situation, right? But on PC, Cyberpunk has played great. I mean, I got to be honest. It really has. It's a beautiful game. I really, really have loved it. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And it, again, still fits the case of single-player launch, wealth of content, $60. Halo Reach launched $60, wealth of content. Halo Infinite launches $60 for the campaign, and then a free-to-play multiplayer that heavily, heavily restricts the player. Now I know what my choice is. I know the games I prefer. I prefer Halo Reach. I prefer Halo 3 even, right? I love Halo 3. Halo 3 is still my favorite Halo game. I prefer Breath of the Wild, Skyrim. But I love multiplayer games. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm trying to like make a point on the amount of content that you can get for 60. The amount of content that you can get for 60 in a single player game and a multiplayer game, and what is stripped down and what is taken away by going free to play. I get not wanting to divide the player base because of maps. I get that as an argument. I respect that. But if you don't have the player numbers anyway, if your brand new free-to-play game is actually generating fewer players than a box set of older games, is it time for a discussion? Is there something to be said? Now, we can't gauge Ultimate Alliance numbers, Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. We can't really gauge those numbers because they were pulled from sale. So we can't compare that with Marvel's Avengers. We can look at some older statistics, and we can look at the Black Order sales numbers, and we can realize that just based on the best investigating I could do, looking at player numbers, looking at sales figures and trying to get an idea, because again, this had to be a personal investigation, and Square Enix has not shared overt hard set numbers in terms of sales, in terms of the player base. A Nintendo exclusive that's locked off to one console versus something that's available on everything but Nintendo. Ultimate Alliance of Black Order has done better than Marvel's Avengers. It's also, if you'll allow me, very easy to find somebody playing Ultimate Alliance, the Black Order. I mean, I have no problem finding people like like anybody I know who has a Switch has Ultimate Alliance because Marvel's popular. It's in the pop culture mindset. It's everywhere, so it's popular. I respect that, and it's a fun game. I like Ultimate Alliance, but versus because this is important. Because again, this is all anecdotal, and this is my own independent investigation. So this is what I can give you. The people I know who play Ultimate Alliance, everybody I know who has a Switch also has Ultimate Alliance. And they are eager to play. I can literally get in touch with them and go, hey, you want to play Ultimate Alliance? Yes. Versus Avengers. Out of everyone I know who purchased Avengers, I think only one still checks in on it. Like, no one's talking about it or playing it. No one's talking about Halo Infinite. What is the longevity of a live service game? What is its effects on these franchises? What effect will Halo Infinite have on the Halo franchise? What effect will Marvel's Avengers have on the Marvel IP? You know, we've heard about game cancellation. We've heard about stuff like that. What effect will Destiny 2 have on Bungie? And again, there's always going to be people that spend money. There's always going to be people who support live service, and that's fine. If you're enjoying that product, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is still an argument and a case to be made for the larger consumer base rejecting these games and these titles. And we need to pay very close attention to what the consumer is rejecting. We can see that people love Fortnite, and they play it continuously. League of Legends, people love it. Apex Legends, people love it. Genshin Impact, people love it. Pokemon Go, people love it. Those are all free to play. World of Warcraft, people love, still going strong. Final Fantasy 14, people love, still going strong. Both of those are subscription-based. Live service isn't dead. Not even MMOs aren't even dead. What is dead is, if you'll allow, what is dead is producing titles, pushing them out for live service to make a buck. Live service needs a plan. It needs a steady stream of content. It needs to be able to roll out, and it needs to be hard. You need to have a hard, unmovable plan that you know you're going to hit. If it's every 3 months, whatever, that you know you're going to hit, and you know you're going to have your seasonal events, and you know you're going to have all of this stuff rolled out, and you know that you have a way to reward players who only play for free, and you know how to generate player retention, and you know how to reward players who are playing for free, and at the same time, you know how not to limit your base. Because sometimes it just kind of looks like greed. Especially when you can't even color your armor a simple color. So, I wanted to get the ball rolling on this. And I'm interested because all of this kind of feeds into each other, which is why it was a sequel video. But now for you, live service games. Any of them, even the ones I didn't mention, live service games. What worked? What live service games work? And what live service games aren't working? When is it apparent that they're not working? When is it so obvious that it's just a money grab, right? I want a perspective on consumers. I do. What excites you about a live service game? What makes you pretty much walk away from one? And what do you think about the live service games that are overwhelmingly popular versus the ones that are based on overwhelmingly popular IPs and they're dead? So to speak. Very limited player base, very limited consumer interest across Star Wars Battlefront, Marvel's Avengers, Halo Infinite. Massive IPs in their own right, especially Halo in terms of gaming. These are massive IPs in their own right. But they have collapsed in terms of retention, consumer interest, and media marketability. Why do you think that is? So I look forward to hearing your thoughts on all of this and continuing our discussion into game development. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share our content with your friends. It helps immensely with YouTube's analytics and algorithms. And while you're here, please consider checking out our Patreon in the link below. We have 2 tiers available, a $3 tier and a $5 tier. At that $5 tier, you are a featured Patreon producer, and your name is in the credits of every video and every product we produce. So thank you to all of my patrons. Also in the description below is a link to our Discord community, The Tower. And finally, my debut novel, 89 Instrument of Destruction, is available to order now from Amazon. So please check that out as well. And again, thank you so much for watching. Above all else and most importantly, stay safe, take care of others, and have a legendary day. Bye, everyone.